allegiance.
Let's all stand and recite the pledge together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Beeler. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight, this evening. Vice President McCullough will be stepping in for Mr. Riley tonight. Let's see, I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Penn-Harris-Madison Board of School Trustees for Monday, June 24th, 2024. Our first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Before we get into the adoption, we did have one member of the public that has signed up to speak on the agenda. Mr. Dallas, your 3 minutes is yours.
Well, good evening. Ben Dallas MAGA here. It's my new nickname. How's everybody doing? Just kind of came here. I wanted to add 2 items to the agenda. 2 items. So first item, I'd like to correct the record. Okay, correct the record. So every time that I come here to speak, just have my nickname listed as MAGA. I'd appreciate that. And anytime Anthony, there's another, I guess, audience member, Anthony Rutten, every time he spoke, please let the record show that it was Anthony Rutten that spoke, not Andy Rutten. So we get the names correct. I think that's important for public records. Also, the other item I'd like to add to the agenda is we have these parents groups. You know, we have a parents group at PHM. They started off doing great things, you know, doing some grassroots things. I think there should be some guidelines. Maybe for an agenda item, do some guidelines on conduct for parents groups. That, you know, I don't think it's particularly appropriate for a grown parent to cyberbully a student online. Probably, you know, we don't like cyberbullying. Probably not a good thing. So I think some guidelines for a parent group would be a good thing. When a parent group morphs into something else, like the Westboro Baptist Church or something, it doesn't help the school. So let's have some basic guidelines on conduct and not let kids get harassed online. And that's all I got for agenda items. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas. Board members, do you have any additions or changes for the agenda for Monday, June 24th, regular board meeting? Is the administration?
The administration has no changes.
If not, we'll move. Oh, sorry. First time this year. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda for the Monday, June 24th, 2024 regular board meeting as presented?
I so move.
I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed vote nay. Motion carries by the vote of 5-0. Next up is approval of the minutes. Do board members have any additions or changes to the minutes from the May 20th, 2024 executive session and regular board meeting and the May 14th, 2024 special meeting?
Yes.
Mr. Chaffee.
Yes, I would just like to note to the public so they have all the information on the basis of my vote. The school board president and or superintendent violated school board policy, I'll correct myself, school board bylaws with the May 14th, 2024 meeting. Thank you.
Any other board members? Does administration have any changes or requests?
The administration has no changes.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the May 20th, 2024 executive session and regular board meeting and the May 14th, 2024 special meeting as presented?
I so move.
I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed vote nay.
Nay.
Motion carries by a vote of 4-1. Moving on to our consent agenda, Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, Vice President McCullough. The administration recommends approval of the 29 items appearing on the consent agenda.
Is that all you? I'm sorry. There.
Yeah, that's for that one.
Okay, perfect. Do board members have any questions regarding the June 24, 2024 consent agenda?
Yes.
Mr. Chaffee?
Is there no public comment? I just want to be sure before I ask my questions.
Nobody has signed up for
Thank
the
you.
agenda item.
For policy
I'm
number.
sorry.
Correct, okay. Per policy number 0166.1, I move to move off the agenda number 4.08.
That would be approval of independent consultant agreement between the Penn-Harris-Madison School Corporation and Tim Corbett Consultant. Is that correct?
Yes,
Board members, do I have a second to remove agenda item 4.08 for approval of independent consultant agreement? Since there is no second, we'll move on. Any other board members have any comments with the consent agenda?
yes,
Mr. Chaffee?
thank you. Just would like to clarify to the public, as of today's what, June 24th? As of March 25th, as an individual board member, I would have had the sole authority to move that item off the agenda. At the March 25th board meeting, our school board president, who's not here tonight, tried to ram through this policy change, which at that point in time, it ended up not going through, even though the attorney sitting to my right tried to have it go through as well that night. It was tabled and then voted on at the April 22nd board meeting. Mr. Beeler and Mr. Garrett voted no to the policy change as well. But it changed because the majority of the board, two of the board members, which are here tonight, Ms. Sullivan and Mr. McCullough, voted for the change. I'm bringing this up just to emphasize the fact that by this change, the board as a majority silenced, not me, but you, people that bring up concerns. I know there was parents that brought up concerns today, and rightfully, those questions should have been discussed separately outside the consent agenda tonight. Tonight, we have 29 items on the consent agenda, and therefore, since I can't have this discussion on this specific one item and get the answers to be able to provide those to the community members within this community, I'm going to have to abstain from voting yes to the other 28 items. So I just would like to communicate that to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaffee. Any other board?
Yeah, I'd like to mention too, I'm in a position with this particular one, 4.08. I was going to recuse myself because I have used Mr. Corbett and his business on a personal level in the past. So any input I would have or any voting I would have would be biased based on my past experience. So, I mean, I think that's reason for recusal, but am I right on that?
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't really want to abstain, but I didn't think it was right for me to vote on this particular item. But again, you can't have. So I guess I have to abstain too from all the other items on the consent agenda because that one particular item cannot be removed, which Mr. Chaffee has pointed out, which I think making that move was a big mistake. When we did that, I agree with Mr. Chaffee. We took away the rights or the voice of our public, because you have to vote all or none. And I just, doesn't seem right to me. But that's the way it is. We have to go with what we've got. But I guess I'll have to abstain as well because I can't vote on that particular item. So then I can't vote on any of
I
them.
would like to know how Tim Corbett's going to be used since we got so much police here on staff. That's my question to the superintendent. I don't know if he can answer it or not.
Yeah, I'll be glad to answer that. Tim Corbett's former Metro Homicide Commander, has tremendous expertise. He's a retired police officer. He worked with handling lots of homicides. He worked with drug issues and such. His level of expertise is recognized around the country. He's been featured on national news with regard to a cold case that he helped solve. He's sought after as a consultant across the country. He's actively working all the time, looking at things that can help us improve things. Not only does he monitor current practices, he brings in wisdom, and we can't share every single thing that all of our safety personnel do, but his expertise is unparalleled in this community.
So he's basically on as a consultant.
Yes, he's basically a consultant.
And Dr. Linsky, how long have we used Mr. Corbett?
I looked that up today. The first contract I saw was 2010, obviously, prior to my being on the board.
I can point out also, we have other consultants as well in area of safety. Mike Sager, we employ him as well. So how many consultants do we need? I guess that would be my question.
It depends on how safe we want to be. See, we take
I
safety.
you know,
We
there's a
take
little thing
safety.
called Overkill
Okay,
too.
well, we'd never say that if something happened that we didn't want to have happen. I've always said it. I believe the board typically believes in this as well. I'm positive the community does. Safety is our highest priority. We want to keep kids safe. We talk about making sure that our faculty and staff, I look out here at our great teachers. I want them to feel safe. I want them to feel valued and significant. When we think of not only physical safety, we think of psychological safety, which was brought up by Mr. Dallas, making sure that people are not bullied, people are not harassed. We want to make sure that all angles are covered. We want everybody to come into the school and be safe and score at their highest possible levels. We want the students to be able to self-actualize. We want them to be on a track to either enlist in the military, enroll in college, or be workforce ready. I want to make sure that we're one of the top performing school districts, which we are. We're ranked in the top 5%. We've been ranked number 6 nationally for safety by Security Magazine. We're very delighted that we have these experts helping us so that we have one of the safest school environments in the entire country. It's one of the goals that I had as a superintendent when I came here is make sure kids are safe. And that means faculty, staff, guests, all the people who are in here want to be safe. So I'm always going to be advocating for safety. Mike Sager is recognized as a Gov 30, which means 30 people in the United States of America received awards for safety. One of the top consultants in the entire nation. He continues to be on cutting edge and working. He's worked with different boards, professional boards, different companies, and he lends expertise to us every single day. He looks at things and he's as thorough as they come. So what we're doing is we're talking about 2 top-notch people that nobody else can get for the price that we pay. They're a bargain, and I want our school district to be safe. And I would hope that the people who are in this audience would agree, we want our schools to be safe. I'm positive the teachers, I look at our teacher, PHMTA president, I know for a fact she wants the teachers to be safe. I look at former school board president, Gary Fox, I know he wants us to be safe. So when we start looking at these kinds of things and think, don't never, ever be penny wise and pound foolish when we're dealing with a life, ever. So I want us to be crystal clear. We value safety. We want everybody to be able to come in here and feel valued and significant, not physically harmed or psychologically harmed. And that's what we're doing. You've always advocated the same thing. I know that.
And I still do. But my point is, and it will continue to be, I mean, what you said, it based on what you're saying, then we should have 20 more consultants. I mean, we can never be too safe. There's got to be a line drawn somewhere. And the point is this, how efficient is it to have 2 consultants? You know, why not 3? Why not 4? Why not 5 then? Somewhere you got to draw a line. And I think that like guys like Mike Sager, bring him in. I mean, how much do we really use him? We hired a guy to replace Mike Sager, and then we have to rehire Mike Sager to help him out. Are you kidding me?
Well, you know, we do the same thing with everything that we have. When we start thinking about transportation, we use consultants to help us all the time. We look at routing. When we talk about food service, we have, and Jill Riggs is recognized as one of the top professionals in the country. She was the state winner for food service director, served on the national board. When we network, we get better. When we utilize, and please, I hope that nobody interpreted my comments as saying the sky is the limit. I didn't say that. I said I want to make sure that we're safe. we believe that Mike Sager, a Gov 30, you could not find a Gov 30 to come in here and work for what he's doing. 30 people in the United States of America. You couldn't do it. And where are you going to get somebody with the expertise of a homicide commander? You're just not. So we're not trying to we think it's a bargain. And we're not trying to have an unlimited number of anything. We have physical constraints. We always have to, we know how much money we have to spend. We know how much money the state gives us. We want to make sure that we use it judiciously. We want to keep kids safe. We want to make sure that we invest in our teachers. We want to make sure we pay very highly competitive salaries. We want to prepare them so they stay with us, they enjoy their careers. We want to invest in them with professional development and constantly give them opportunities to grow. We're all about self-actualization. We want everybody growing in this organization. They're never going to grow. I guarantee you they're never going to grow if they feel threatened, intimidated, if they do not feel valued and significant. They will never grow. We had a graduation rate of 79% when I got here, 79%, and we had a 10% free lunch count. The lowest performing suburban school district in the state of Indiana. Now we're at the top. We're in the top 5%. We have a 98% graduation rate. The kids earn $16 million in scholarship money. Okay, we are better than ever. And we have 31% of the kids on free lunch. Our teachers are phenomenal. The leadership's phenomenal. The parents are doing a great job. We talk about the triangle of success. We don't do it alone. We connect students, teachers, parents. We have to keep investing in people and giving them confidence so that they can continue to do a great job. But look, Dan Schetzel's daughter, a Lilly Scholar, full ride, brilliant student. Those are the kinds of kids that we're producing. That's what our goal is, help everybody self-actualize. So we don't put a cap on it, but we already have a cap. We know how much we can spend. When I got here, first initiative, Gary Fox and Jim, when you guys met with me, he said, here's your goal for October, make a $3 million cut in programs and personnel because they didn't have any money. We had over $55 million worth of projects that needed to be completed. We didn't have any resources. Okay, we turned all of that around. When we looked at that graduation rate and we're saying in the programs, by the way, how many, I could ask our president, I could ask all of you, any of the teachers, how many teachers have we laid off since I've been here? 18 years, 0. You know why? Because they can't self-actualize if they think they're going to be laid off every year. They laid off 165 teachers before I got here and a growing district doing the opposite of what we should be doing. Now we're doing best practices. We're phenomenal. Be proud, be Penn proud. We're doing great things. And I'll never apologize for making sure that we're safe. And I'll never apologize for helping kids self-actualize or our employees.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker.
Well, since they're paid by the hour, and to me, I know them both real well. They bring different perspectives. Corbett's perspectives and Mike Sager's are different perspectives, and I think we need both those perspectives.
Thank you. You've always been a strong advocate for safety.
I agree with that 100%. But I guess my point is this. I mean, we have Tommy Teeters, a great guy.
He's fantastic.
That's right. So I guess my point is I just never understood why after Sager left, we hired Tommy, who is already an expert in the field, so to speak. And why did you need Sager on the payroll? It kind of reminds me of the deal that Sager struck with the firemen. You know, he kind of gave them a little deal back, 10, 15 years ago. We ended up paying $35 an hour for guys to come in and the evenings, and it's $50,000 a year. So if you look at what we spent on just those people at night, you know, because they were firemen, we paid them $35 an hour to get them from VSS. We spent over $600,000 in the last several years, at least. It was $200,000, $50,000 a year. So it's been at least 10 years, hasn't it? Okay, I know they were doing it back when I was still teaching. So and I've been out 10 years. So at least $500,000 we spent on that kind of safety. So, and again, we're talking about, that's money that you didn't have to, if you're gonna spend that kind of money, you know, why give it to somebody who's outside the corporation? So, again, my point is this, Tommy Teeter, we hired him to do a job, and, you know, I don't know that, I guess I'm just reluctant to say that we need Mike Sager to help Tommy Teeter out. And as far as Mr. Corbett, his is a different situation. I understand that. And I would say one thing, if there was a shooter in place that came into the school, there's no one I'd rather have out there than Tim Corbett. I mean, I know that guy would lay his life out for anybody here. So, but I just think we should be taking a look and not just continually add to our situation. And let's see if you can prove that there's a real need for it. You know, that's like saying Tommy's not doing his job. He has to have help from Mike Sager. And I think that's in the wrong message. My opinion.
Yeah, and Mr. Garrett, I looked into that today, and that's what I want to reiterate. This is a renewal of contract. It's been 14 years with Mr. Corbett, and Mr. Sager's been on the board, or I'm sorry, been a consultant for at least 3 years since I joined. So I think these are renewals. And
I'd like to just add one thing.
Mr. Chaffee.
Thank you. I don't think anyone is debating the importance of safety. That's obviously the number one priority. I had several questions, but a couple of them, just since it seems like we had the discussion already, but we're not going to get those answers tonight. So again, I will be abstaining from voting. But a couple of questions I had is the contract says may include, and then it goes into a variety of things. And then it lists, you must provide the monthly billing statement breakdown. One of the questions I had was just curious, as a school board member, privately, I have that right and entitled to that information. So I would have been requesting that to understand truly what Mr. Corbett is doing. And my ask was going to be to put that on the July school board meeting. But obviously I did not get a second to move it off the agenda since we changed our policy recently to silence the public from doing so. So I will be abstaining tonight. Thank you.
Board members or administration, any other comments, questions? I do have one other one, 421. Unfortunately, didn't get the spotlight I was hoping, but Coach Greg Dykes, the naming rights for the Penn-Harris-Madison Education Foundation. Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Coach Dykes means a tremendous amount to this community. I was fortunate enough to play for him, and I know he's mentored and coached thousands of athletes with over 800 wins and 6 state titles. Yeah. He ran out of fingers. So congratulations, Coach Dykes, and naming the baseball field adequately so after Mr. Dykes, and thank you for your donation. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the June 24, 2024 consent agenda as presented by Dr. Thacker?
I so moved.
I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed vote nay.
Abstain.
Vote carries, motion carries by a vote of 3-0. All right, moving on to our instructional report item for this evening. Dr. Thacker, the floor is again yours.
Thank you, Vice President McCullough, Board of Trustees, and everyone that's here. I'm delighted to share with you some information. We have a great report tonight from one of the finest high schools in the country. We have one of the finest leaders. In fact, Sean Gallagher, Dr. Sean Gallagher, was one of the finalists for the Indiana High School Principal of the Year because he's such a dedicated, outstanding professional. Joining him tonight will be, one of them will be Rachel Fry. Why don't you stand up, Rachel Fry? Mrs. Rachel Fry has just been named one of the finalists for the Indiana Assistant Principal of the Year. I believe that she's going to win that. Phenomenal person. We have Mr. Josiah Parker, who's done a superb job with regard to a lot of the things in career and technical education. Mrs. Sarah Hendricks, who, by the way, was an All-American and a state champion volleyball coach. How about Sarah Hendricks? Why don't you stand? State champion volleyball. Okay, I don't want to leave out Jeff Hart. Jeff Hart, back-to-back state championships, national championship, national player of the year, Gatorade players of the year, multiple All-Americans. Jeff Hart, please stand. I say that because none of them were in these roles when I got here. We invested in talent, we developed talent, and here's what we have. The finest administrative team in the state of Indiana. Dr. Gallagher.
All right, well, thank you for that introduction, Dr. Thacker. Vice President McCullough and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to come back and share our second semester achievement report. Ms. Mitchell is not here today. She's one of our other colleagues, assistant principal. She's overseas, traveling with students. I think they come back tomorrow, actually. So we look forward to their return. But this report, as Dr. Thacker mentioned, is a result of our dedicated teaching staff at Penn High School, and of course, the wonderful students and families who partner with us each and every day. So we are going to just do a quick highlight of the class of 2024. So I have a bulleted list there, but they're all important items to recognize. We had 21 valedictorians this year, which was a little higher. And it was a very competitive class, which resulted in the 21 selected. We had 4 salutatorians. Layla Berry was our Schmucker Award winner, and Sarah Mead was our Kingsman of the Year Award winner, a fantastic student. We're actually approaching close to $17 million in scholarships since this slide was generated. Our senior class did very well in their hunt for scholarships, and based on their performance in high school, thanks to the teachers and their parents. You can see here a list of the other major awards. We had 440 students earn an academic honors diploma. That's close to 54% of our graduating class. And we had 39 students get our highest recognition of summa cum laude, which, if you recall, that was a new, the Latin honor system was a new designation that we put in place about 4 years ago. And 117 of those students were magna cum laude, 113 were cum laude. And then we had 8 national merit finalists, 15 commended scholars. Jaden Wing was a regional academic all-star. And then we had 2 Lilly Scholarship winners. Bella was mentioned earlier, Schetzel and Jaden Wong. And very importantly, we had 16 students. We have 16 students entering the military after high school, which is amazing. As mentioned, Rachel Fry, who's a wonderful colleague, is named District 2 Assistant Principal of the Year, and wonderful teacher, Jeremy Starkweather, who just returned from the national debate competition. Was our teacher of the year, and we'll have some data and some information to share about our students' performance there. Students did wonderfully. And just a reminder, I started the last time we were together in February. I restructured the way I'd like to share this report based on the Graduates Prepared to Succeed headline indicators that the state of Indiana is measuring. And the big ones right now are student attendance, graduation pathway completion, college and career credentials, SAT performance, and college and career coursework. So I'll talk about each of those, and then we'll get into a little of our student involvement and our celebrations and accomplishments. So remember, our theme was music. We don't have any music for you today, I'm sorry, but you can think of your favorite song while I'm doing this presentation. So our graduation rate will be right around 98% again this year, which is exciting. We'll match last year. We were at 98.12, and we're on track for actually a little higher this year, in the 98% range. And you can see the number of our students who are receiving an alternative diploma, which is about 1.3%. The state does cap alternative diploma recipients, and so we'll get 1% of those students to count into our 98% rate, which is great. And then we have 41 sixth semester graduates, 62 early graduates from the 24 class. We also, looking at college and career readiness, which is an important statistic. So the number of students who are earning or have taken an AP class, and I want to just make sure this data is clear. So this is based on cohort data. So when you look at 2024, you see 85% of our seniors this year, so it's cohort related, have earned an AP class or taken an AP class, gotten a 3 or higher, or have taken a dual credit class at some point during high school. So that number continues to rise due to our commitment to offering as many dual credit classes as possible that we can that meet student needs. And then we added, and this is a late add, and I'm sorry about that, but I wanted to point this out. If you look at the other metric in this is industry certifications. And so 2 years ago, we started to offer more of those certifications to our students. So you can see we're hovering around 159 last year and 157 this year, students who passed an industry certification test. So that's good news, and we will continue to expand that, those opportunities for students. As I mentioned, we're right at 54.4% of our students earning an honors diploma, which is amazing and is slowly upticking, as you can see from previous years. So congratulations to our students for meeting that requirement. And then as a reminder, we talked a lot about this at the February Achievement Report, but we had a Cognia accreditation last school year. We were designated a school of distinction throughout the world, right? And that was very exciting. But with that came some noteworthy practices and some areas of growth that I want to remind the school board that we're working towards. So the first one is, obviously the continuous improvement process that we are committed to. They recognize that, and you'll hear more about some of the professional development we have put in place since we've gone through the accreditation, which is exciting. And I think the most important part is our learners' well-being is at the heart of all of our decisions that we make. And then the second most important one that they recognize was distributed leadership across our staff. It's not only administrators, it's our teacher leaders that are in very, very critical roles to help our students and our teachers improve in the classroom and academically. Our areas of growth, the main ones that they asked us to think about is to collect yearly feedback regarding climate and culture. I spoke to climate and culture at the last board meeting. I reported out data on that. The second one was our commitment to active learning, evaluate and monitor processes for increasing student engagement. And so we've done a lot of work in this space this year, and I'll highlight that here in a moment. And then develop, implement, and monitor formal processes to advance consistent expectations for staff and students. And so that goes into really everything we do, but specifically PLC protocols and our instructional playbook, which is our shared understanding of what quality instruction is. So we want all of our teachers on the same page with what works in the classroom. So professional development wise, so this is this year. So we reported out through February. So in blue, you'll see what's happened since then. But our focus this year was on active learning and finding ways to help our teachers create more engaging and active learning environments in the classroom. So in March, we did some teacher-led topics. So we let our teachers present based on some strategies they see as highly effective in the classroom. So we had teachers choose where they wanted to attend in March. We did some disciplinary literacy, which is essentially connected to the math disciplines. We had math-specific professional development. We had English language arts. We had a science PD. So we had our teacher leaders do PD in April. And then thanks to the approval of the school board in June, we did UDL PD, which is Universal Design for Learning. We had about 40 teachers. That was a voluntary PD session. So about 40 teachers signed up for that. They loved it, and they want us to schedule a day 2. So there's several days in a lot of these PD plans. They want a day 2. So we're going to try to figure out a way to do some of that professional development. And then the Kagan PD, which was designed around collaborative learning structures, right? Getting our kids more interactive in the classroom. We had 3 days of PD in June, and we had about close to 100 teachers attend. And again, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive, and our teachers are asking for more. So that day was basically, trying to teach teachers the difference between group work and collaboration, right? And trying to put together accountability structures to get more kids engaged and not your typical group work engagement. So it's exciting news that we'll continue the Kagan PD. We have another round in September when teachers return. We'll get the rest of our teachers trained in the day 1 collaborative learning structures. Okay, so that's PD related. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Rachel Fry, who's going to talk a little bit about college and career credentials.
Good evening. College and career credentials is a really exciting topic for us. One, because we're leading the state in our plans and our opportunities for students, and we still have a lot of plans to continue to grow in that space. So you've heard me talking about the Indiana College Core the last few times that I've gotten the opportunity to speak with you. Essentially, in a nutshell, just to remind everyone, that is the equivalent of a student's freshman year in college, kind of meeting all of those core requirements, not necessarily yet getting into specific requirements for a program of study or a major. It really takes our dual credit opportunities at Penn and gives it more of a direct focus on what they need to meet in order for all of those credits to apply to what the colleges will be requiring. So since making the ICC available to all Penn students in 2022, so that is everyone wall to wall beyond our early college program, we have almost doubled the number of students opting in. So great news. That number is still relatively small. So we have plans for how to further market that and how to make it available to students who might have different paths, different plans about their post-secondary goals. And we are continuing to work, but also excited and taking a little time to celebrate our success. We also have been able to mentor and present to other schools and communities about kind of our work and how we have expanded this school-wide. And so that is an exciting piece as well. Speaking about early college, so as you can see from the chart, our cohort totals seem to have leveled off, which makes sense if you're looking at 23 and 24. What we are looking for as a goal is growth in the number of college credentials earned. So then you're looking at the Indiana College Core and the Associate of General Studies, which are depicted in the blue and the red there. So you can see we continue to make gains in that space. And our 119 early college graduates actually earned over 7,000 college credits, potentially saving the cohort over $6 million in tuition, fees, room and board, using estimates from this year. And I think we used IU as a benchmark for that. So definitely a celebration. And as we continue to see our ICC numbers grow school-wide, it's promising to know that we have a lot of more students being able to reap the benefits of those dual credit opportunities. All right, AP class enrollment. So this is something we've been looking at after we saw that dip a couple years back. We've been more intentional at using the data from PSAT especially. It provides us with AP potential data. And so while that is available to parents and students, we don't know that they were always looking at it. So we have some plans in place now where we communicate that strategically with each grade level to let them know you are capable of success in these AP courses, and we encourage you to take that risk. And our counselors are having those conversations. After seeing such a high number of enrollment in 2024, I wasn't sure we were going to be able to grow beyond that, but we certainly did, and we're projected to see even more students in AP courses next school year. And then dual credit. So I do want to point out the last slide was talking about enrollment as a whole, just looking at our growth heading into next year. This is going back and looking at cohort data. So our 2024 graduates who just left us earned, let me see, we had 704 of those graduates, which is a very big chunk, almost all of our students, taking some type of a dual credit course during their high school experience. So that is wonderful. We do offer such a variety of dual credit coursework. So a lot of those students might be taking a dual credit core class, while others might be using it in their CTE pathway, because a lot of those classes are dual credit opportunities as well. All right, so industry certifications, and Dr. Gallagher already touched on this, but as you can see here are the industry certifications that we offer, the tests that we offer at Penn High School, that continues to grow under the work of Josiah Parker. And each of those numbers are the number of students that had the opportunity to take coursework to prepare them and then to sit for those industry certification exams. We continue to experience growth in that space, and really I think we are on that path to really personalizing and talking to students about what their plan is after high school and then preparing them accordingly, not everyone taking that same path. Academic performance to be determined. This information, SAT data is embargoed, AP results come out in July. I don't know about you, but there's a reminder on my calendar for 7:30 that morning because I like to dig into it as soon as it's available, look at trends and be able to get back with teachers, plan, and make adjustments if we need to for the next school year. So those things will be available. We will obviously share that out when it's available and then also publicly at our semester update next year. All right, so as you may recall, students and faculty adjusted to a new digital format for the PSAT and SAT this year. That means more than just the fact that we're taking it on a device. The types of questions changed, the number of questions changed. It was a lot of adjusting, and we were ahead of that. And I think students and faculty worked really hard to prepare for the change. Our students continue to perform 15 to 20% above the state average. I don't think that's breaking my embargo rules, right? But we are still not pleased with overall results and continue to use data to plan and grow. So this being an area of focus for us, we are altering our test prep plans for next year as we do every year. So I'm excited to announce we spent some time meeting with vendors who offer SAT prep programming. There are a few out there. I was surprised actually how many have not yet caught up to the new digital format, but there were a handful that did. Our team decided that Horizon Education best meets the needs of our students at this time. So we will implement their benchmark assessments starting this upcoming school year, which will give us additional data to use for interventions and individualizing each student's needs as they prepare for those higher level exams. So in addition, we will be bringing in a staff member who will be working with students throughout the year on both college application tasks and PSAT and SAT intervention based off of those additional benchmark data in collaboration with their 11th grade math and language arts teachers. All of this is combined with the things we've been doing, which include Gear Up, PSAT, any of the free practice available, and also Khan Academy, which has very much kept up with the changes on those tests. Okay, moving on to E&L, we continue to see growth as we have since 2020 on the number of our students who are English language learners. And while we're seeing growth in the program, we are proud that the average WIDA score continues to remain the same. We also last year had our highest number of students test out and continued to hold at 7 for that again this school year. As you know, on-track data is something that we look at very closely. So making sure that our students, as they progress through high school, but especially in that 9th grade, really pivotally important year, that they are remaining on track, which means they would need to earn 5 credits per semester or 10 credits for the school year in order to achieve their 40 required credits for graduation. You can see up there when you see the totals written out, we saw a little bit of a dip in the percentage of 9th grade students who were on track at the end of this school year. Obviously, that's somewhat of a cause for concern for us. We have dug in a little bit and feel that we have maybe an idea of where the cause of that is coming from, and there's some work being done to make some adjustments this summer. Meanwhile, any students who are not meeting proficiency or a passing score in their classes continue to have the opportunity to participate in credit recovery and get back on track even before starting their sophomore school year. And that's all for me. At this time, I'll hand it over to Sarah Hendricks, who's going to share a few more measures providing evidence of college and career readiness and our academic achievement. Thank you.
All right, good evening. Let's see if I can. All right, so I'm excited I get to talk to you guys a little bit about the amazing things that are happening at Penway. You can see there during the 23-24 school year, they averaged 7.38 credits per day. Penway also continues to expand their work-based learning initiative, and you can see there they're offering multiple different opportunities. Right there's a picture of 2 students who got to get some great experience working with a local tree removal service. So they continue to kind of try and expand those for students that are over there. So just a kind of an overview, approximately 100 new students were enrolled at Penway this year. Students are placed at Penway for a variety of different reasons, but they continue to thrive in this alternative environment. And this success is largely due to the fact of the amazing staff that's over there that continue to just build relationships with those students, work with them individually on things that they need as well as their credits, RTI groups, things like that daily that are going on along with the credits that are earned. Penway graduated 31 seniors this past year, along with 14 juniors. We've seen a lot of success with the Jobs for American Graduates program, the JAG program. And you can see there 18 of our juniors and seniors participated in this program. All right. Again, no music, but we get to talk about the fun. Persistent attendance, which we talked about earlier in the year. I'm excited actually about this one because we saw some great growth. So we had talked earlier about another GPS, the dashboard Dr. Gallagher talked about with our student attendance. And this was a big initiative for us this year, especially in student services. We really focused on meeting with students with attendance, looking at data every couple weeks, really digging into that. And so this indicator is calculated by taking the number of students with at least that 94% attendance rate and dividing it by the total number of students enrolled in the school. So this directly obviously ties in with our school improvement goal, which was set at 75%. So as you can see, the state average was 61.1%. In last school year, the 22-23, we were at 68.1. And when I reported first semester, we were at 76.47. At the end of this semester, we were at 79.23. So again, a good increase there that we're happy with, always looking to do more. But I think a lot of that was in part to the student advisory that we did. So every week during the first Black Day, the teachers were working consistently with attendance. Students were diving into their own attendance, taking a record of it, looking at what it was, what they could do to improve. And then we kind of made a goal for them. So we met with those students during a virtual class meeting and gave them one of two goals to meet, which was either to achieve that 94% attendance rate or to try to improve from first semester to second semester by 3%. So we were trying to get every kid to really buy into that. And during the last week of school, we had almost 3,000 students receive their reward, which I laughed because, these are high school kids. You think they're not going to be as excited about these things. And I've never seen high school kids so excited for a popsicle at lunch. It was like, I'm on that list. I know I'm on that list. And usually they were. So that was really neat. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
In attendance for at least 94% of the school year, is that not account for excused absences? So if, say I'm student X and I have X amount of, is that part of the calculation, I guess is what I'm asking, or what is the true calculation to figure out, hey, if I'm Matt and I'm a junior at Penn High School, when you guys are looking at my attendance for the school year, do you account for excused absences, or is it just unexcused is what's factored out, tardies? How does that work? Or if you miss half of the school day per se?
Well, the way it's, I can get you a specific answer for that, so I can make sure I can give you the, tardies, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So it counts every absence. So
There you go.
if you attend on a day, let's say you're there 3/4 of the day, it counts as a day of attendance.
Yes.
For a kid, but if it's your excuse or your truant or your unexcused, all those count against a student in their attendance rate.
Okay, all of those, even excused. Okay.
Yeah, even excused.
Thank you.
So let's see. Again, we're excited to continue to work. We're already starting to kind of think, the deans are, myself, working together on next year, because of course we want to try and get above even that 79%, get into the 80s. So working already on how we're going to kind of maybe tweak some things with advisory, do some more incentive. Obviously at the end of the year, it worked really well. So we want to start doing those periodically throughout the year to get them going earlier and stuff like that. So, all right. I think now I get to pass it over to Mr. Parker.
Good evening. So I get to talk to you about some student involvement celebrations. And we found over many years, the more a student is involved outside of just their 8 classes they have every day, the better connected they are in the school and the community, the better they end up doing within their school experience. It's more enjoyable, and they tend to do better on a lot of the numbers we've seen here so far. So I think it's very important to get our students involved in any way they can. We've got a few celebrations to look at. So the first one, let's talk about our academic championships this year. There are 17 state academic championships for Indiana. Penn placed first or second in 10 of those 17 this year. And then there were a few more we've placed third or fourth in. So that's a huge celebration. We do very well in our academic championships. Very specifically and hot off the press, our teacher of the year, Mr. Starkweather, just took the debate team to Des Moines, Iowa. Wonderful place for debating. And for the international championships. And we had some great results there. We had a group from the Lincoln Debate Douglas group that was in the top 50. We had a public forum debate two students who were in the top 40. We had a big question debater who was in the top 40. We had 2 students who were in the final 4 in the World Schools Debate. And again, this is international. And then as a team, Penn was given distinction of a School of Honor. So it's the top 25 schools at the international competition were schools of honor. So Penn High School is one of those this year. So they had a wonderful showing in Des Moines, Iowa. This year we had our first teacher signing day. Just a month ago, we invited 13 students who went through our teaching program at the high school. They all invited a teacher that was influential to them throughout their high school or throughout their K through 12 career to come, and we ran it just like our athletics signing days. I even went to one the day before just to see how it ran, and we ran it the exact same way. But they did they signed a letter of intent to go on to go into college and study to be a teacher. And we hope they all come back. We've invited them all to come back and to apply to be teachers. So it was a really cool event. It was. There's only 13 this year. We're hoping to grow next year and kind of reach outside of just that program because there are some students that are going to go into that career that aren't in our program. So we want to catch those students as we go and build this. It's kind of cool to see their past teachers come up behind them, and they were so proud to take pictures with them. It was a really neat experience this year. So that was fun for everybody. We also had our DECA had some great championship students. We had 17 students qualify for the international. So to qualify, I believe it's the top 3 teams at state in each event go on to international competition. So that was in April in California. We had the franchise business group was in the top 20. And we had 2 students in the entrepreneurship group, Chris and David, that placed second at the international competition for our DECA competition. So that's our business program or pathway. And if you have not seen yet, our civil construction path poured a new sidewalk. It's out by the soccer field and the JV softball field, JV baseball field. They poured about 60 feet worth of new sidewalk, and the goal would be to kind of add to that throughout the years, find some more concrete spaces throughout the school that could need replaced and tear that up and get it replaced. We have great community partners that helped with us. The Ready Mix Association kind of helped put it all together and everything was donated. We didn't have to pay for anything. We got all of the safety equipment donated, the boots were donated, the concrete was donated, and then a great gentleman, Al from AP Concrete, donated his time to come in and actually pour the concrete with the kids. You can see him on the bottom picture with the red gloves on. He did a great job showing the kids how to do it. There's only a short time window you have when you're pouring concrete before you can't do it anymore. So he was very gracious with his time and still got it to look great when it was done. Our high school engineering program was designated a Project Lead the Way Distinguished High School again this year. So we were one of, I think, 97 schools across the nation that got to earn that designation. We earned that designation because we have a large percentage of students that take that pathway and then they continue to take it after the first year. So those are the numbers they look at to provide that award. And then lastly, our seniors, they came back on a day off. They did not have to be in school, but they came back, they got onto school buses, they went back to their elementary schools and their middle schools, and they walked the halls for our senior parades. And so it's a great opportunity for the kids. I think our high school kids love it. I know our little kids love it. To see those graduates walking through the halls gives them something to kind of look forward to, that they get to come back when they're old and graduating and can walk through the halls when they're there. Yeah, I know, old. My students will be a sophomore next year.
You looking this way when you say that?
And then some other things we've done that will increase our student engagement. We've got a lot of work-based learning projects going on with the chamber, the local chamber. We've actually written 2 grants with them to include some funding for some teacher work in the summertime. We've got several teachers doing an externship here in July. We will have help with career coaching. There's some new legislation that students need career meetings, so they're going to help us with that. Get more people into our schools, get our students out into the community a lot more. So I think that'll just increase our engagement. All right, and to wrap us up, Mr. Jeff Hart.
Good evening. I will keep this short and sweet. Athletics in the spring. We had 546 student athlete participants, a grade point average of 3.62, which is just outstanding for this group. Again, time management, accountability, head coaches, our assistant athletic directors, Bridget Williams and Marie Doan, that provide grading and attendance records every 2 weeks to our head coaches. Just have done a great job in keeping these kids really being truly student athletes. It says up here 55 senior student athletes. That was as of Friday. I think we had 2 more over the weekend, so it's now 57 and 58. Just graduated seniors have received opportunities to continue academically and athletically at the collegiate level, and so it's a tremendous class that we're losing. And as I told them late in the year, it's a lot of positive leadership that we're going to have to replace, and so. But out of those 57, 58 kids, it's 21 different sports. So 11 men's sports and 10 women's sports that they'll be competing in college. Again, well-rounded, great coaching, great support from parents and certainly from our schools and administration. Specific success in competition. Our softball team, who were state champions last year, lost in the Final Four. In a tough game, and then lost to a team that then went on to win the state championship a few days later. Girls track and field team qualified 10 participants to state, and Mary Eubank in her last race of a really great career at Penn High School broke the school record in the 1600 and finished 11th in the state. Our boys track and field team qualified 18 participants, which is a tremendous honor just in itself. And Elijah Coker was a star long jump state champion, the first boys state champion we've had in that event. He then a few minutes later went on to finish 7th in the 200, breaking the school record. And then, Kellen Watson placed 3rd in the 100 after finishing 4th last year as a sophomore. And so just a great effort all around by the team. And then a couple pictures of Elijah jumping. Broke the state record the week before at regionals, jumping 24.2. So he jumped over 8 yards. That's a long way. He is on his way to Indiana State to play football and run track as well. And then finally, we've talked about Lily so many times through the years, but I think it is appropriate to end our school year on, again, celebrating her success. She won 6 state titles at Penn High School in swimming, qualified recently for 4 events in the Olympic trials in Indianapolis, just completed last week. And she'll go on to do great things, certainly at North Carolina State here in the next month or 2. So just a great group of seniors, and now we start preparing for next fall. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. So that concludes our second semester achievement report, and we're happy to answer any questions.
I have one question.
Yeah.
In your presentation, you said that we had about 16 students going into the military.
Yes.
All right. Do we accommodate the recruiting activity? Like we let recruiters come into the school? I mean,
do. Yeah.
Good. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, we have, they're in our cafeteria quite often. Yes.
No, and we did that in the past. I just want to make sure.
Yep.
So it's good.
They're very active.
I had a quick question about the Mrs. Fry's presentation about the AP emphasis on pushing, not pushing, but encouraging, I guess,
Yeah.
people to know that we have those classes. Just the dual credit in general, I think can be confusing for the public because there's AP, ACP, IB Tech. I mean, that's off the top of my head. I don't, could you just maybe explain like the difference between all the dual credit options and why are we encouraging specifically the AP, I guess?
So Rachel's much better at this, but I'm going to try. And then she's going to correct me.
Explain.
And I do have a son who just graduated, so I've been seeing how colleges interpret AP versus dual credit.
Question because I've got
so there are certain, like if you take an IB Tech class or an ACP class that's through IU, there are certain classes you can take that are transferable to all kinds of different universities, in-state and out of state. And a lot of times you can look when you're picking your schedule for the next year in college. I was doing this with my son. He took an ACP communications class. Well, the freshman year, you're supposed to take a comm class, and they said, well, there's all these different courses that count for that credit, and he can type in the the number that he had for that class, and it counts. So with dual credit, you can see specifically what courses count. And the same is true for AP. You can, if you have certain scores on your AP exams, those also count for college credit, but it's not guaranteed. So if you just take the AP class, that's not a guaranteed college credit that you would be able to kind of replace it for a class you might have to take your freshman or sophomore year in college. So it kind of depends on which university you're going to, and what when they look at, if you got a 5 on a Calc AP exam, that means something different at each university. It might, for example, for Purdue, if you get a 4 or 5, that counts as like the beginning math course if you get that on the AP exam. So at a different university, it might be a 3. So it depends on what college you're going to and how those AP credits will be transferable across the United States. So I don't know, did I miss anything, Rachel?
The only thing I would add would just be, sometimes when students are making that decision, a dual credit class, there's a set of course objectives from our post-secondary partner, whether it be Ivy Tech or IU, Ball State, and so on. And so those teachers work with the faculty there to ensure that we are meeting those course objectives. The grade that a student earns throughout that course then, whether it be projects, assignments, assessments, all factor in, and that's the grade that is reported. Whereas for AP, the grade that they get in the class is not necessarily what's transferred. So Sean's talking about the score on the AP exam. That score solely on that one day, that one test is what dictates whether or not it will transfer as a certain class. So that's a big deciding factor, I would say, for a lot of our students.
That's kind of why I'm curious why we're encouraging the AP, because to me, that's the harder one. You have to pass the test to get the credit. And it's not always, I have from personal experience with 3 kids having done this already, it doesn't always transfer, right? Depending what your score is. Whereas I feel like when you do the ACP, which is an IU class, Indiana University, Ivy Tech, they seem to transfer easier. So I
would say that perhaps I misled a little bit in my portion. I do think that we encourage both. So every time you hear me talking about the ICC, those are dual credit courses for the most part. They could have some AP in it. A lot of that trajectory is dual credit. So I do think we're encouraging both, just in general, for students to take courses that challenge them adequately.
Gotcha.
Sorry if I misrepresented.
No, that's okay. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
And you love IU, so.
Well, and there's that.
Or Eagle.
Well, and that too.
Any other questions?
And I want to be clear to the public, the $16 million earned in scholarships and from this senior class does not include an additional $6 million for academics, correct? I'm sorry, for AP credits, Ivy Tech and additional support.
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
so we're looking at $22 million this class between academic scholarships, athletic scholarships, and
Could look at it that way, I think. Yeah, that's money saved. Yeah.
phenomenal.
Okay.
Board members, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, this presentation was for informational purposes only this evening, and was it another great one? Thank you, Dr. Gallagher, Ms. Fry, Mr. Parker, Ms. Hendricks, and Mr. Hart, even in a suit and tie, for presenting tonight. Your presentations are always one of the highlights of each half year. I guess we get them. Wish we could hear more, but we appreciate. Please pass along with the rest of your team, Dr. Gallagher, your teachers, your staff, students, parents, how much we greatly appreciate their efforts.
Feeling proud of applause, right?
Right. All right, moving on to our business action item, Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, Vice President McCullough, Board of Trustees. Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Aaron Lensky, will present our business action item this evening with a request for approval to award bids for some capital improvement projects. Dr. Lensky?
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Good evening, Vice President McCollum, members of the board. We have a summary this evening. I don't know if we'll pull that up or not. Looks like he's getting there. Thank you, Randy. There are 3 items for your consideration tonight. The details were hyperlinked, and so hopefully you had a chance to peruse those. The first one is a large project at the Penn High School. It's a pool mechanical equipment improvements. It's something that's got to happen. It happens behind the scenes that no one really realizes to make that pool the place that it is and continue to work and be a healthy and safe environment. The second one is wrestling mats for Penn High School. That's with the expansion, the IHSA expanding girls wrestling. We're anticipating more student athletes participating, so we're buying these proactively to address that. And the third one is secondary musical instruments, and that's really for most of those instruments are going to Discovery Middle School, who saw a 25 to 30% increase in the number of students who are participating. And so we're providing more instruments to adequately allow that class to continue. So the total is there. It's $1,170,617 for all three items. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Board members, any questions or comments? All right, we will take one motion for the entire slate of the three capital improvements as presented. Do I have a motion to award the capital improvements project to the listed vendors as presented?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
A second?
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
All those opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 5-0. Thank you, Dr. Linsky. Moving on to our business discussion item, Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, Vice President McCullough and Board of Trustees. This is relative to the first reading of revisions to board bylaws and policies. Mr. Ryan Snoddy, PHM's Neola Associate, met with PHM Board Policy Committee on May 9th to review the current update to our board policies. The Board Policy Committee includes Board Attorney Jeff Johnson, Board Policy Liaison, Mr. Chris Riley, Mrs. Lucia Ramey, Mrs. Rachel Hugenboom, and me. Following the committee's review, the revisions have been processed in-house to get the policies in the pre-adoption format, which is what is being presented tonight to the board. There are 9 bylaws being rescinded, 1 new bylaw, 1 replacement bylaw, 2 new policies, 2 replacement policies, and 4 revised policies that are scheduled for first reading this evening. These bylaws and policies are the first group to undergo revisions from this most recent update. And I'd like to ask Board Attorney, Mr. Jeff Johnson, to present the 20 policies to you. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, Vice President McCullough, and members of the school board. As Dr. Thacker indicated, there are 20 bylaws and policies that are up for a first reading this evening. Although this may seem like a lot of the 20 items, there are, as he indicated, there are 9 bylaws which we're seeking to rescind, which will be consolidated into 1 new bylaw and 1 replacement bylaw. First, proposing the following bylaws be vacated, which will be replaced by the new bylaw and the replacement bylaw. The rescinded bylaws are 0164.1 regular meeting, 0164.2 special meetings, 0164.3 emergency meetings, 0164.5 member participation in meetings through electronic means of communication, 0165.1 notice of regular meetings, 0165.2 notice of special board meetings, 0165.3 notice of emergency meetings, 0165.4 notice requirements established by other statutes, and finally 0165.5 series of meetings. Next is bylaw 0164 notice of meetings. This is a new bylaw which consolidates bylaws 0165.1 through 0165.5, which are being rescinded. Neola felt that it would be more efficient and user-friendly to consolidate the bylaws concerning notice requirements for the various types of meetings into 1 single bylaw. Hence, the revocation of the previous bylaws concerning notice requirements into this 1 new bylaw. Bylaw 0165 board meetings. This replacement bylaw consolidates bylaws 0164.1 through 0164.5. Again, this bylaw is meant to make the bylaws more efficient and user-friendly by consolidating all of the different kinds of meetings into 1 bylaw instead of 5 separate bylaws. Policy 1422.01, drug-free workplace. This new policy mirrors existing policies 3122.01 and 4122.01 by applying the drug-free requirements for administrative staff as is currently in place for the professional staff and the support staff via 3122.01 and 4122.01. Policy 1662.01, threatening and or intimidating behavior towards staff members. This new policy mirrors existing policy 33.62.01 by setting forth unacceptable behavior toward administrative staff as is currently in place for professional staff via that 3362.01 policy. Sister policy 4362.01 relating to threatening and or intimidating behavior toward support staff is being revised to comport with policy 3362.01 and new policy 1662.01 so that we will now have policies concerning threatening and or intimidating behavior toward administrative, professional, and support staff, and they will all read the same. Policy 5340.01, student concussions and sudden cardiac arrest. The revisions to this policy add drama and musical leaders to the list of those that must provide students with an information sheet on sudden cardiac arrest, which sheet must then be signed by the parent and returned and retained by the drama or musical leader. Policy 1520.08, employment of personnel for extracurricular activities, and policies 3120.08 and 4120.08. The proposed revisions to these policies again add the drama and musical leaders to the list of those individuals that must complete a sudden cardiac arrest training course before they may begin their duties. Policy 5517.01, bullying. The proposed revision to this policy adds that the safety of the victim of bullying is a priority and that the findings of an investigation of a claim of bullying must be completed within 5 days of the reported incident. Policy 8452, automated external defibrillators. The proposed revision to this policy adds, again, the drama and the musical leaders to the list of those that must receive training in the use of an automatic defibrillator before they may begin their duties. And that concludes tonight's first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. These revisions to the board policies and bylaws were presented for discussion only tonight. The board will take action on these 20 policies at the July 22nd, 2024 board meeting. Dr. Thacker, you have anything to add, or you?
No, we're very proud that we've been staying at the forefront of implementing the policies. We're glad to have the consulting services with the expertise they have with an outstanding legal staff. And of course, everything that we have here is something that's being mandated. So we're trying to make sure that we're in compliance and reminding people of best practices. We appreciate the expertise that Counselor Jeff Johnson brings every single time.
Thank you.
All right.
A question.
Oh,
So all of these these things that we're combining, those are mandated that we combine those?
No, it's not mandated we combine them. It was Neola's position or thought, recommendation, that instead of having 5 different policies of what kind of notice you have to have for what kind of meeting, just put those all into one. If we're gonna have a meeting, these are the notice requirements for this kind of meeting. It just seemed like it was more user friendly. Here's their bylaws actually. Here's the bylaw that you go to if you want to know if proper notice is being given for a particular kind of meeting. So
I just wondered because I know that when we put those bylaws together originally, obviously we were following state law requirements. And so the law hasn't changed or anything. It's just a matter of to make it more efficient.
yeah, yes. And the content of the bylaws with regard to what type of notice has to be given didn't change. It just got put into one big bylaw. So if you want to know what kind of notice has to be given for a meeting, you go to one bylaw and then you look through it and see what kind of meeting it is.
Just check. I mean, a lot of combinations. So I just wondered, I would make sure that, we weren't, eliminating something that might be beneficial. Okay.
This strictly came from, as a recommendation to us by Neola.
And Neola was,
That's that's the consulting firm that we use, that, I don't know if every school system in the state does, but many in the state of Indiana use this particular, I think they're headquartered out of Ohio, and they specialize in Indiana school law.
I think it's 700 or something, a lot of schools.
Is it that many? Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chaffee?
Thank you. I appreciate the efforts everyone that put into this. Just find it odd that the same effort was not given for the consent agenda change policy 166.1 the past couple months. I wonder why that's the case. I do have a question for our administration. Maybe it can be answered tonight. Maybe it can't be, but I certainly would like it prior to the next board meeting. It has specifically, I know Dr. Thacker himself even said earlier tonight, that the goal obviously is people are not bullied, people are not harassed, and that goes for any person within this school corporation, whether it's a staff member, a student, a parent, just a taxpayer as well. So specifically, my question in regards to these policies and bylaws, there's a good amount, and I've reviewed a lot of them. My question is per se in regards to bullying, harassment, intimidation. What's the procedure for staff members to follow when it involves reporting per se, for example, on a school administrator, superintendent, and or school board president or school board members? A lot of our school board policies right now as they sit, as well as with the changes being recommended, talk about reporting to the school principal or school administrator or the superintendent or the school board president. But if those individuals are implicated in this potential bullying or harassment that a staff member might possibly be alleging, I would like to understand, and I think our 1,600 approximate staff members all deserve that answer as well, so they know if they feel in potential situations what to do. I know in our policies it talks about the superintendent is supposed to develop the administrative guidelines absent a board policy. That is a board bylaw or policy, whatever you would like to call it. So we should have those already. They should be in place. So Dr. Thacker, you might not know it off the top of your head, but we certainly should have those. So I certainly think it's reasonable to have requested that information by our next board meeting. Honestly, I think I should have it by the end of the week, but July 22nd, when our next board meeting is, I think is certainly a reasonable request. I think that's about 4 weeks from today. So thank you.
We'd be glad to share it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaffee, Mr. Garrett. Board members, anything else to discuss on this presentation tonight on policies and bylaws? All right, if not, we will move on to the hearing of visitors. Is there anyone in attendance this evening who would like to address the board? Okay, seeing how we have a few, before I recognize individuals who want to acknowledge the board and administration in the interest of orderly discourse, I'm going to read instructions that apply to all guests who wish to address the board. At regular meetings, the public is invited to address the board. A time limit of 3 minutes shall be enforced for persons wishing to address the board. Board attorney, Mr. Johnson, will keep time and will let you know as expiring. It is requested that names and addresses be stated at the beginning of such comments. Individuals may speak once during the hearing of visitors. Please understand that personnel issues absolutely cannot be addressed during open sessions of the board. PHM as an employer must comply with our own policies as well as various laws that protect employment privacy of employees. School board set that policy, that the guidelines that guides disciplinary matters. It cannot allow for public discussion of employees. I recommend any personnel issues be submitted via email. Please use orderly and appropriate language and volume when addressing the board. Also, it is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board. Please refrain from directing your remarks to other members of the public who are in attendance tonight. With that said, who would like to go first? Yes, sir.
So, is that my name and then address, like?
Sure.
Okay. My name is Tyler Bonds. I live in Mishawaka, Indiana. For the last 3.5 years, I have been a youth development specialist at Moran Elementary School. Youth development specialists, we have been in all elementary and middle schools for over 30 years. Bittersweet, Elm Road, LC Rogers, Horizon, Madison, Meadows Edge, Moran, North Point, Prairie Vista, Walt Disney, Discovery, Grissom, Schmucker. We've been everywhere. We have worked with hundreds of kids this year, and over the last 30 years, we have worked with thousands of kids. Triangle of success, connecting students, teachers, and parents together. We have done an excellent job in providing behavioral and emotional support to children to make sure that they feel supported, to make sure that they feel like they have a chance. A lot of them come from different backgrounds, different families, and a lot of them do not have the best upbringings. But we, as specialists, provide that support, skills, and many other techniques that they can use and that families can use in order for them to have the best chance of success in the schools and outside of the schools when they grow up and they get jobs. As of last week, unfortunately, our position has been extinguished. We have I have three concerns. My first concern is that we did not receive a meeting, a phone call, an email, nothing regarding the extinguishment of our positions at the schools. When we talk about the triangle of success, when we talk about how we're going to provide these students with adequate support and social emotional well-being, I do not feel like that was the most effective way in letting us know. We weren't let know in any capacity whatsoever. In fact, I was let know on a Friday night that we were not going to have these positions. I want to know who in the school board is going to talk with these parents and let them know that our services, we've been dealing with anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, divorce, things that all students, all people would have gone through. And we have professionally dealt with these things with these students. They have not had the opportunity to find out about this.
Your 3 minutes have expired, sir. Sorry.
Mr. Bonds, thank you for your comment. Next.
Tricia Letty, 617 South Ironwood Drive. Dr. Thacker, Mr. McCullough, and members of the board, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Behavior challenges are on the rise across the district. Because of this, we have many teachers in crisis. The chaos we teach in depends on how bad each day is. Behaviors are inhibiting academics. Behaviors are not managed effectively. Excuses are made for the behaviors while the root cause remains unknown. Imagine the relief that Disney teachers felt when they were told that a certified teacher had been assigned to the building to support teachers and students. With them, they brought valuable classroom experience and a vast depth of knowledge with the science of reading. They were welcomed with open arms by the teachers. Unfortunately, I was not chosen to receive their help, but those who were sang their praises. One teacher is quoted as saying, "The creation of this position gave me hope that a qualified educator who has spent years in the classroom could be a champion for the classroom teacher." One day they taught a Haggerty lesson. Watching them model how to effectively manage specific behaviors while still carrying on with their teaching was something I desperately needed to see. Another teacher had this to say: "They were assigned to a specific student in my classroom and worked with them 3 days a week, roughly 70 minutes a day. The behavior strategies used with that student allowed students to focus their energy into learning and staying on task. This benefited the whole class. Additionally, I was able to incorporate the strategies used. I was given hope with this support." Clearly, teachers have found value in the help they received. Teachers in crisis need to be given hope by someone who has walked in their shoes, someone who has spent years in the classroom and can empathize with them. In closing, I would like to share one final quote from someone who I value and have the utmost respect for. "Ultimately, this corporation has lost its moral compass. Kids are no longer first. With the loss of the Youth Service Bureau and any additional help like what they were given, teachers are doomed. It used to be a job of passion and love. Now it is just a job that you and I are trying to survive each day." Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members like to address the board?
My name is Brent Curtis. I live on Mercury Drive in Granger. At the end of each school year, I presume and certainly hope that PHM coaches, teachers, and administrators are evaluated for their performance during the year. Coaches are evaluated on wins and losses, student athlete conduct, and the overall direction of their respective program: football, softball, track, etc. If there are problems or concerns, changes are made. Teachers are evaluated on the academic achievements of their students. Are standards being met? Are results improving? If the answer is no, changes are made. I'm sure Dr. Thacker and Dr. Gallagher have reviews to ensure they are meeting the expectations set forth for each of them. It's a common practice. Seems to me this would be a good time for the board to undergo a performance evaluation. Has the board met its obligation to the families of PHM? Does it listen to concerns and issues presented to it? Does it invite suggestions on where and how improvements can be made? Does it welcome an open dialogue with parents? If the answer to all of these are yes, then congratulations, well done. If the answer to any of these is no, changes need to occur. What is the line of defense for families for those times that the board acts in a way that doesn't benefit PHM or it doesn't act at all? What assurance do parents have that a system of checks and balances is in place to oversee this board? The board cannot continue to self-govern itself. That has proven to be ineffective in initiating positive change. I've attended enough of these meetings to know that parents and the board will not always agree. The board cannot and will not address every item presented to it. That is expected. However, what is also expected is that not every item be dismissed and ignored. I have yet to witness the board openly inviting a discussion with parents and families. It continues to, some might say cowardly, hide behind ever-changing board protocols. At first, you couldn't address board members directly by name. Then you couldn't even mention board members by name. Why is that? You certainly want folks to mention your name when you ran for this position. Why shouldn't they be allowed to call you out by name when you fail to uphold your campaign promises? If you are willing to accept praise, then have the courage to accept criticism and be held accountable. That is how progress occurs. That is how success happens. That is how the district benefits.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Anyone else? Floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Ann. My son is Tyler Bonds. During this meeting, wow, I mean, the accolades and the amazing things and achievements of these students. But I have a question, was that all students, some students, or just a certain segment of students? I have something I want to share, and I'm going to say it right now, and then I want to share with you something. My son wanted to know, why are we not given the chance? Why were they not given the chance to talk with the parents and families about the extinction of these services? Who's going to be taking their place? Are they college educated? Do they have weekly, monthly, and yearly training? You see how my son is so excited and he's so passionate about these students, these children. Do you know what? He used to be one of them. He used to be one of them. We're from an abuse situation. My son came from the situation of a single parent, and I didn't give up. And I had those that came underneath me. All these accolades that you've been talking about, that's so awesome. But is it for all of the students? My dad was an electrician. He was the one who, way back in the day, went way up at the top. We don't even dare do that now. Now we've improved, right? You know why? Because they found out that the weakest guy at the bottom link would cause my dad to fall. You know, my father did. So they had to make improvements because it matters. What's weak down here at the bottom, that matters. And those people need support and help from here and on up. My grandfather was an interior decorator and he laid foundation for houses. Do you know what? He was one who would go in and say, you know what? Here's going to be your problem right there. Nobody else could see it, but he did. That was going to be where families had a house that was not good for them, where children were going to suffer, or where there might be something wrong in the walls. Listen, all students are important. These kids, I've been to events where they were like, oh, Mr. Tyler, Mr. Tyler, Mr. Tyler. They had no one else to support them, care for them, be that one that has the education that he has. I also want to know what's going to happen to these students. Are they going to achieve any of the things that you talked about today? Are they going to? Who cares about them? They were not given a conversation, nor were the parents. My son was not let know. It was on a Zoom call. Guess what? All of you are gone. That's it. Bye. What was that? Oh my goodness. None of us would be treated and want to be treated that way. And guess what? In my last 30 seconds, you all are leaders for these next generations. What have you just taught these kids who need your help desperately? Have you taught them that this is going to be the next generation of the citizens? Are they going to reach your positions? Are they? I would hope so. But guess what? It's not going to happen this way with dropping them. They'll start the next school year going, wait a minute, are we going to have, I'm sorry to say this, slit the wrist Susie in the bathroom again with no one to help her? They need help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miss Ann. Anyone else like to address the board?
I wasn't going to speak, and that was powerful. And I'm really sorry that happened to you, and I'm sorry for our students. I'm waiting for a response, Dr. Thacker.
You have one.
Okay.
All right.
Okay,
And
good.
and I think you'll be delighted.
Okay, do you want to do it before I start my time?
We'll go last.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was just going to say, originally I was already thinking, and you said a phrase, psychologically safe. You said that phrase, and I started thinking about all the times in the past 4 years that I've been up here, and everything that we've fought against and fought to remove was so not psychologically safe. And listening to this is not psychologically safe. And then I think back to when Matt brought up the staff and what they did and what came of that. Who knows? Are they going to be part of a Zoom call this summer too? I don't know. Who knows? But then I started thinking, wow, this is a big deal, because we say these phrases all the time, and yet I don't think you realize what you're saying, actually. Is it psychologically safe to pass around an article that was written about a board member to other staff? Is that psychologically safe? Is it psychologically safe to call parents employers? Is that psychologically safe? Is it psychologically safe to ban dads from their kids' school events for whatever reason? Is that psychologically safe for that child or those children? Is it psychologically safe to have students follow staff on social media that post naked pics of themselves? is that psychologically safe? I can go on and on and on for an hour talking about the things that you have done that are not psychologically safe. So please define for us what you mean by psychologically safe, because I can't wrap my mind around what you may think it means. So please, there you go.
Thank you. Any other members of the public want to address the board?
Good evening, everyone. Dan Schatzel, 52245 Woods Ave Drive, Granger. I have another example of something that's not psychologically safe. I had a parent come to me and say a member of a parent group here at PHM had disparaged their student, their child online. Okay. Now, I mentioned this because Mr. Dallas mentioned that he also had an example of that. How do we hold parents who attack students online accountable? We need to think about that. Mr. Chaffee, I hope I'm not breaking a rule here. I just wanted to, I noticed this consent agenda. I wasn't aware that previous to this change in rules that something on your agenda could be changed without a second. Found that really interesting. As a county councilman, just an FYI for you, we can't change anything without a second. So it's just interesting that you actually had that in place at one point, which to me seems a bit dangerous. So I'm glad you actually have the second rule now. I think we all can stand up here and speak as members of the public. I don't think that shuts anyone down. We all get the chance to speak. We get our 3 minutes. Mr. Garrett, I want to tell you, I appreciate the fact that you are concerned about how much money we spent. As a fiscal conservative, I find that very reassuring. Dr. Thacker, I appreciate your passionate response. As you all know, my daughter just graduated from here. I teach here. My son goes to a different school. They have no armed personnel in the school. Every day he goes to school, I worry about that. So I'm glad we're taking safety seriously here. I did want to mention a couple things concerning county council, and if I'm breaking the rules, please quickly let me know.
Close this time. This is foreign ground.
50 seconds left.
Okay, I can do it in 50 seconds.
County.
I don't know what you're gonna say. I don't know.
Can I try?
Put your antenna on really good for me.
I'll try, and if
wall here.
I'll try, and if I'm out of line, let me know.
You heard the ground rules.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, okay.
I think
So
I'm good.
You should know what you're gonna say.
Yes.
Like that or not.
I think I'm good. I just wanted to mention that St. Joe County was very happy to participate with PHM and Granger Paths to create the path from one of the subdivisions to North Point Elementary School. St. Joe County kicked in $8,000 for that, and we're going to get that done this summer. So the kids walking along Cherry Road are safer. I want to also mention that we have brought in the last year and a half through the expansion of AM General, GM, Samsung, Amazon, and Microsoft. We're bringing over 3,000 high-paying jobs to St. Joe County. Get ready, because you're going to have more students. A lot of those people are going to want to live in our district. We're going to have to find a way to accommodate them. I appreciate Mr. Parker and the rest of the administration who are cognizant of what's going on and preparing for those relationships. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the board?
Hi, Lisa Langfeld, Granger, Indiana. We talk a lot about our coaches, we talk a lot about our teachers, but I would be remiss if we did not recognize one of our finest leaders probably ever in PHM's history and her last board meeting tonight. Dr. Soto-Kyle has helped manage over 1,300 employees in this district over the last few years. She's been a principal, she's been a teacher, and she has done a magnificent job. She has been put to the test many times over the last few years, and I can't even look at her because she is just going to greatly be missed. We're excited to have Bob roll into her position, but just know you are so appreciated by everyone from food service to bus drivers to teachers to even the team sitting here. So thank you, Dr. Soto-Kyle.
Thank you for those comments, Ms. Langfeld. Anyone else want to address the public or the board? Sorry. All right. I know we're just down to the board members. Do you have any reports or requests would you like to make at this time?
I got a request.
Mr. Beal,
I
the
was
floor is
very
yours.
disappointed that the board did not know anything about the elimination of youth service bureau. You, as a good, if you're a good superintendent and a good leader, you should inform your board. It might be a great thing, but it's a little late. You've caused a lot of problems. I'm eager to hear how you're going to replace it.
Dr. Thacker, would you like to make a statement or do you have
Oh,
insight or? you
I'll go
wanna-
last.
You'll go last? Okay. Mr. Beeler, was that all you had?
Yeah.
Anyone else who would like to make a report or request at this time?
Yes, I would. I would like to, my never-ending desire to do what's best for PHM School Corporation, teachers, students, faculty, and staff. I would like to throw this out to the board. You know, I've had a lot of experience in the classroom, and I've been on the board now for a while. I've done coaching and all this stuff, so I feel like I have a little bit of finger or thumb on the pulse of the school corporation. But, you know, the reality is I can stand up here and rant and rave and say this needs to be done, that needs to be done. But the reality is we need to have input from our teachers and our staff and our administrators as to whether or not we are meeting their needs and giving them the tools that they need to do the job that we have assigned them to do. So we need to hear from them, and we need to have a dialogue, at least in some way, with our people. So I would like to have us reinstate what we used to do, and that is take surveys. I mean, when I first came on the board, I remember getting at least 1 or 2 surveys that we had done with teachers, and the results of those surveys gave us a pretty good picture of what the teachers thought was good, bad, about how they were being treated, about the discipline situation, if they were, you know, what they needed. But I think we need to expand that, not just do teachers, but I think we should talk to administrators too. Are you getting the support you need? Are you having, do you have the tools you need to do the job that we expect you to do? So, and even, maybe even the janitorial people. I've talked to several PHM people who are involved in janitorial services, and they have a lot of complaints about the Tedesco situation. So having a combination like that. So, and I don't know the answers to those questions, and I don't know how to, you know, really help those people. So I would like to see us do some kind of surveys or some kind of question and answer. Maybe, hey, I wouldn't even be opposed to having board members go around to every school in the corporation and give people time to talk to us directly if they wanted to. But on the same token, a lot of people might be afraid to talk out publicly because they might be afraid of retaliation. I know that's been a situation in the past. So maybe an anonymous survey, again, like the ones we used to do. And because I remember reading those surveys and I got a lot of insight. So I'd like for us to do that again. It's been, what, 5 or 6, 7 years probably since we've done one. And I think it's time that we talk to our people again to see if we're meeting their needs and what they would like to see us do that we're not doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Any other board members with comments or questions?
Yes.
Mr. Chaffee.
Just would like to say to the public, I would love, absolutely love to respond to one of the things one of our councilmen for this county Councilman Schetzel said, singling me out here tonight. And it has to do with a lot of overarching things. I eagerly await responding to that, but tonight is not that time, but that time will soon come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaffee. Ms. Sullivan, you good? Okay. All right. Dr. Thacker, would you like to respond to the YSB comments from both Mr. Beeler and our community?
Absolutely. Okay, during my doctoral work, my cognitive counseling and psychology, I at one point thought I was going to become a psychologist, but what I learned was working with the professors that I like organizational behavior, working within a structure for motivation because it's a more controlled environment. You can create greater success with that. So I've always had an interest in making sure that we had services for kids. And the first person that has to have a great relationship, we talk about a triangle of success. We want to make sure that we have that partnership with parents. And so it's, when we think of the, not just communication with, but a genuine partnership, and I would think that Bella has a great partnership with teachers, parents.
Yes, she does.
Right? I mean, she's a Lilly Scholar, great student, great example. We also have students who are in special education, exceptional education. I think maybe the best partnership that we have in public education is a partnership that we have with the parents, the students, and the teacher, that triangle. I think that's probably the strongest one that we have. So we do talk about every single kid. We want every single kid to be able to self-actualize. When we're talking about making sure that the kids have services, we're always looking at better ways to do things. We also have external forces called legislation. There's legislation that requires all public schools to spend at least 62% of their money on their own personnel, which would be the teachers, counselors, and such. So what we're trying to do is shift, and we have a number of people from YSB that are going to be shifting to jobs in PHM, because that's an outsourced contracted service that costs approximately $800,000. And what we're trying to do is make sure that people have that opportunity. But as we look at that and we say, what are the needs of the students? We've done some work with legislators, and actually board member Roach was part of that, as well as our Mike Manis, who is the Indiana Psychologist of the Year. So with that legislation, we receive funding if we have licensed psychologists and personnel such as that, licensed psychologists. So with Mike Manis being one of the leaders in the state and knowing that the kinds of things we've been trying to set up, and kudos to Jenna Todd for the work that she's done. When she started in this role, I talked about, let's create a vision of where we have great services across the board with for these all children. So we're looking at trying to make sure that all kids are having the best possible personnel. We're going to be making a change. I'm going to have more specific information that'll come from Dr. Short in a bit, but I want to say what we're doing is we're putting trained, licensed psychologists in more buildings. Some buildings will be full-time, some will shared responsibility because of small enrollment. We're also looking at behavior specialists, and we've hired a number of behavioral specialists, and it's a behavioral coach, educational assistant, working with these different students. So we've done some pilots, and we're finding it to be highly successful. So we're talking about behavior, we're talking about psychological, emotional kinds of needs with psychologists. We're talking about people who are highly trained. So we have more psychologists than we've ever had. We'll be starting the year with more than ever. So all the kids that you're talking about, when we're saying here are the kinds of things that we need, and we're trading out some positions that would have licensed counselors because we can pay for that if they're a licensed counselor through some of the Medicaid state funding. So it's all complex. Now, and I apologize to you who weren't informed. We're working with a contracted company. And so we work with that leadership of that group and talk about where we're headed. So I apologize that you didn't get better care than that. Mr. Beeler, I apologize to you for not having the information. I don't know what happened because and I don't know if there was a technical issue or not, but we've sent some information on 2 different occasions. And so we should have followed up to make sure that you had it, because I know that you've had some technology problems with your computer, but on 2 different occasions, I believe the rest of you probably received information about the YSB and some transitions that we're going to be doing. Okay, so, but I apologize that we didn't anticipate and ensure. So Dr. Short is going to give a brief snapshot. And then later in the year, we'd love to come back and say, here's how this is working. Okay, these are things, and when we talk about surveys, we do a lot of informal surveys too. And I love the surveys. We have the parents, we give the parents the surveys at the parent-teacher conferences. We say, how do you feel about your child's educational experiences with curriculum? 95%. Give them an A or B rating. Say, how do you feel about the safety? 95%. Okay, how do you feel about your teacher? They love our teachers. Our teachers are fantastic. They love our teachers. That's the most popular thing, our teachers. And the principals. They love our principals. So we monitor that all the time. When we invest in professional development, we're trying to make all of our teachers great. We're trying to make our administrators great. And we're trying to get feedback when we talk about what are the needs that are made. When Dr. Gallagher received a grant, he talked to his staff. What are the things that we need to do here? So that entire presentation was based on things that they knew that they needed. So that's not uncommon to us. We can share more of that information with the board. We work with the Teachers Association regularly, meet probably more frequently than any other administrative group in the state of Indiana, because we want to have a great partnership. So we look at these kinds of things all the time. We welcome the people who are YSB to apply for some of these jobs that we have. We believe, I shouldn't say this because we believe we pay more than what you're receiving. Okay. So you can make more money. Now here I am on this Zoom, and the YSB folks are watching. We're not trying to poach everybody's personnel. We really value the relationships that we've had, and we've had on a continuum. We've had some people who've been with us for a long time, and then we have some spots where we have a lot of turnover. If we could maintain continuity, we're going to do a much, much better job. And that's and I appreciate the heartfelt thoughts and concerns that were shared here. We care about all kids, every single kid. We measure all the kids, and we're looking at their growth. When we talk about academic awards, we have an impact award for the teachers who get the greatest amount of growth. So we'll have kids in Title I schools who are doing exemplary work because the teachers are doing a phenomenal job. So we're always concentrating on that. And I appreciate it that you brought that information to us. And I do encourage you to apply. We appreciate the great work you're doing, and we'll make sure that we make more information available as we do an implementation. We're really excited. We think we have a state model, and we have a lot of people who are very interested in not just working here, but learning more about it from the other administrative groups. We try to be good leaders, and we try to share. One of the things we share with other school districts. So Dr. Short has been really instrumental in making sure this is happening. So she's going to say a few words as well.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Thacker and members of the board, public. We're actually incredibly excited to expand offerings and what we're doing. This summer, you may remember we had our first behavioral summit. It was a 3-day summit. Day 1 was for hourly EAs. I think it was the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Todd, in the history of PHM where we have asked for voluntary hourly employees to come. We paid them for their time. I think we had over 100 EAs that attended that day for a 6-hour session. And they were so incredibly thankful. We got incredible feedback from them about the fact that they really felt they were being treated as professionals. They really enjoyed the information that was shared. And then the second 2 days were really focused on behavior teams. So every school with the building principal in attendance, as well as counselors and teacher leaders, et cetera, they were there for a 2-day training specific to what the school behavior team model is going to look like. So thank you to Ms. Todd and her team, and certainly Mike Manis. As Dr. Thacker mentioned, our school psychologists now, we can help pay for their funding with Medicaid, and they're able to bill for time spent with students. So instead of our psychologists really just being more psychometrists, where they're testing students and then leaving and testing students and leaving and maybe serving 3 or 4 buildings, we are really going to be able to have dedicated psychologists who serve 1 or at most 2 buildings. So they're a 50-50 split, where they're able to build relationships with kids, where they're able to work one-on-one with students and their families. In addition to those school-based psychologists, we are going to have a position that we call BCEAs, which are behavioral coach educational assistants. We piloted 3 of those this spring. Again, asked for a lot of feedback from principals, got remarkable feedback from principals, and we are excited to expand those. So we are happy to say that we will have a lot of those. And again, Ms. Todd and her team have been doing extensive interviewing this summer. So we are going to be being able to announce what those behavior teams will look like in each building by the time students come back. One of the questions was how parents would be informed. We wanted to wait until personnel had all finished shifting. There's a lot of movement that happens during the summer. So once all of the building teams are established, at the first contact from the building principal to all of their families in their opening newsletter, they will be able to share what those building teams are going to look like and introduce who the psychologist is and introduce other names that will become very familiar to students in the school. And again, the intention is to increase support, not ever to decrease support. We want to make sure that our families and our students know that we're dedicated to making sure that we can help them through whatever the ins and outs look like in their situation. We also want to make sure that we have ongoing intensive professional development for those school-based teams, as well as for our BCEAs. Our psychologists are truly experts when it comes to student behavior. They're experts in a lot of areas, but they're certainly experts in behavior, and we are excited to have them really leading the path of what this is going to look like. And I will tell you, school psychologists are very difficult to come by. And when we started talking about introducing this model, we were able to, we had numerous psychologists apply to Penn-Harris-Madison. So I think I'm correct by saying, Ms. Todd, tell me if I'm incorrect, but I believe that we are going from 7 psychologists district-wide to 12 starting next year, which is a huge increase in terms of highly qualified personnel, as well as increasing number of BCEAs. I want to echo what Dr. Thacker mentioned earlier. We would love for additional YSBs to come to the table. I believe that we have several, I think a good number that have already been, if not hired, but about to be placed. So we are in conversations with people, and we truly value our relationship with YSB. We have over the time. And after my conversation with the director over the summer and over time, we're really eagerly anticipating the new facility that they are going to open, I think, right off of McKinley, because another thing that we're looking to expand is after school services for our families. So we're happy to continue to partner with them to see what YSB is going to be able to offer to the greater community in an after school format as well. But I'm happy to answer any other questions that people may have.
Board members, any questions or comments? Dr. Thacker, Dr. Short.
I'll just add one thing. We're going to have more support for our children in the schools than we've ever had in the history of PHM by changing this model. And we're going to have more highly trained professionals involved in it than we've ever had. So we're really, really excited. We look forward to sharing more with you.
Thank you both for the response to several public and board comments.
I just want to say the South needs lots of help. So
we're here to help.
It made improvements the last couple of years, but there's still more improvement needed.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Beal.
Now, if I can add something to that, because we are always looking, Grissom Middle School received a very competitive grant or award for outstanding academic achievement of $177,000, which we're going to be investing in Grissom. So we're doing a lot of great things. And that goes along with the $450,000 that we got earlier for reading initiatives, and the $250,000 that Penn High School got last September. So all of that money, when we talk about using surveys and such, all of that money is determined, the use is building based. Or if it's a big 450 for reading, it's reading based. So we have certain guidelines. So, well, we have teachers involved in all of these things and administrators. So, thank you.
Now I got another question. The ESSA money, I've read in the school board that it's coming to an end and you're supposed to have it spent. Is that true?
Yeah, I can assure you, we'll spend it.
Well, I know you're gonna spend it, but when are you gonna run out? And then how are you gonna replace it?
No, we're fine. We have, Tom Keeley is a genius in finance, and we have been planning for that to change over time. So all we're doing, we're making some changes. When you think about some of the modifications, what I'm saying, we were spending $800,000 that wasn't funded by anything except us. Okay, now we're starting to get Medicaid money. So some of the things that we're able to put in place will help us. But strategically, we've looked at how we're doing with we'll always look at the staffing. And, we receive actually the lowest amount of funding per pupil, and we have the highest pays in the starting salary. So we're investing in our people, and that's the highest starting salary, which our union leadership, teacher association leadership could attest to, and they bargained it. We love it. We have a 2-year agreement. But yes, we're looking at all those things, Mr. Beeler. And I know that when you think of a fiscal conservative, Mr. Schetzel, I can assure you one of the gold standard for making sure that we're using our money wisely is probably Mr. Beeler. He has done a phenomenal job over the years.
All right.
Mr. Fox helps. I learned something from Mr. Fox.
Moving on to announcements, the next regular meeting of Penn-Harris-Madison Board of School Trustees will convene on Monday, July 22nd at 7 p.m. right here at the ESC. Do I have a motion to adjourn the June 24th, 2024 regular meeting of the PHM School Board of Trustees?
I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 5-0. Meeting is adjourned at 9:01 p.m.